you see, plus I don't have to have my back to the audience. I need to do that. All right, everybody can see? Well, Viagra on this. No, it's already being recorded, so I guess it's already on the. Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, staff, and citizens. The purpose of this presentation is just to make you aware of UN's Global Sustainable Development Plan, which is commonly known as Agenda 21. Contrary to popular belief, this is not a right-wing conspiracy theory. Some of the issues that I have up there is actually showing that it was promoted and implemented as we speak by federal, state, and local level under several different initiatives that all sound very positive until you get to understand the deeper meaning and the hidden costs, as well as the erosion of your constitutional rights. Basically, here's some information that I've gathered together for you. First of all, I want to tell everybody I'm not an expert in this, but this is information that if you read the 351 pages that Doug has somewhere, he's left, but there's obviously a lot of information in there. If you take the time to read it, you'll learn some things that actually were quite alarming to me. But the UN Sustainable Development Plan was adopted in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. That document was derived from Our Common Future, was a report by a commission that was chaired by Grohl Harlan Brundtland, and he happened to be the former vice president of the World Socialist Party. That, in effect, scares me right off the bat. 178 nations signed at the United Nations Conference on Environmental and Development, including President Bush at that time, Bush 41. And the United States is a signatory country. This is not a treaty. It has not been ratified by the U.S. Senate, so I want to make that very clear. This is not a law of the land of the United States. But the United States House did pass a House Bill 353 in support of the Earth Summit, which is what this was called in 1992. This next quote actually comes directly from the introduction and is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United States system, governments, and major groups in every area in which humans impact the environment. There was also an executive order signed by President Clinton in 1993 on the President's Council on Sustainable Development, and that's still in play today. There are basically four main sections that this covers, which is social and economic dimensions, which in a nutshell is to eradicate global poverty by redistribution of wealth and resources. There's conservation and management of resources for development. So housing, land, water, food, construction, transportation, energy, all to be controlled by an entity other than a private citizen. They want to strengthen the role of major groups as the EPA, ICLEI, which I will discuss in a minute, FEMA, DHS, and other non-elected officials that decide your future. The means of implementation, the government grants sustainability plans at local and state levels. It's broken down basically to 3 E's, environment, economy, and social equity. And the question comes up, what is sustainable development? Well, I searched my brain and I was looking and I determined that my definition of social development would be something to develop housing and a building that will serve this generation without compromising the needs of future generations to meet theirs. As far as I can tell, this has been accomplished in America for generations. If you listen to the UN definition, according to its authors, the objective of sustainable development is to integrate economic, social, and environmental policies in order to achieve reduced consumption, social equity, and the preservation and restoration of biodiversity. Every societal decision to be based on environmental impact, focusing on 3 components: global land use, global education, and global population control and reduction. The next slide is what Agenda 21 really means. And basically, we're looking at several different factors here. All of us have heard of smart meters. And you know, when you look at what smart meters collect, we want to be able to electronically collect our usage data, but what else does it do? It ties into an entire network of other appliances, and that information is stored and captured, and your usage can be monitored and controlled. Under urban development, more population from rural property to urban government housing, property rights. How much acreage does one person really need? These are the kinds of questions that are being asked by this United Nations group. Streetcars and light rail forced upon residents. Government involved in every aspect of your life. So food, fuel, travel, housing, appliances, energy, spending. It's all a part of what the government wants to know and how you will function within these guidelines. This next quote is taken from Maurice Strong. He's the UN representative. The current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and workplace, air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. I mentioned ICLEI before. That actually stands for the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. ICLEI is a UN agency that provides local community plans, software, and training to towns and cities that pay their dues. They go under different names, and they have other groups within them, one of them being National League of Cities, International City Council Management Groups, National Governors Association, and American Planning Group. There are 600 cities currently that are under the ICLEI mantra, and there are 10 cities within Texas. They have Austin, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio are among them. I missed one. The promotion of sustainable development, they have different categories: resilient cities, eco-mobility, they go under different titles. Slim city, I'm not sure what that one is, I didn't look it up, but I can just imagine Mayor Bloomberg wants to get involved in that. Biodiversity initiatives, including the Durban Commitment, which is what I did look up. This was an agreement that was signed in Durban, South Africa, which has concerns about socio-economic planning that pertains to the poor in South Africa. I'm not sure how that ties into cities within the U.S. This concerns me, and I'm sure many others. Why is this important to me? Well, property, if I'm concerned about acreage taxation, eminent domain confiscation, private property, an undue accumulation of wealth that leads to social injustice. There's a wildlands project that I encourage you to go look up. Just Google wildlands project and take a look at the map that has been put together that shows in areas where humans will reside and animals and others will reside. This is actually being considered right now. Believe it or not, don't trust me, go look it up. Under the home, we talked about smart meters, compact fluorescent light bulbs. Many people think that's a great thing to have the little curly-Q light bulbs and it take forever to warm up and you can never see anything in the dark. This was actually a result of what they call the private-public planning. Different corporations got together with the government and figured out this was a good thing for all of America to have, and they took away incandescent light bulbs in the process. This is all a result of UN Agenda 21. Appliances which are regulated by the EPA, which drive the cost higher. SEER ratings, I think all of you are familiar with that if you have air conditioning. Refrigerant costs. I had my air conditioning guy out yesterday, and he was telling me all about the cost of what it's going to cost for me to fill up my refrigerant, $50 a pound, which used to cost half of that. Why? The EPA says you have to do that. Food costs is driven up by squeezing the farmer, by EPA regulations, higher taxes on property, inheritance taxes. If you want to move the people out of rural areas and move them into the suburbs or into the cities, what do? You make it so that you cannot pass on your farm to your family. You know, most farms are worth, you know, somewhere $5-6 million. You'll be paying an extra 5%, but that's gone up. It's now 40% inheritance tax. Who can afford that? Families will give up their farms and move into the cities. Building costs are escalated to support the green initiatives. Urban development of multifamily dwellings is not a coincidence. If you look at, you know, how many, and I did have a report here that shows that the multifamily production index from the National Association of Home Builders, the market rent starts that were basically the building starts, multifamily dwellings in 2008 was an index of 16. In 2012, that same index is now 54. That's how much has gone up in 5 years. Education, how many smart growth and global citizens classes are being taught in the public schools today? And thank God Texas did something about C-scope, because that's another plan to indoctrinate our children to understanding the global initiative of Agenda 21. We are not alone. The good thing is we do have a lot of other states and municipalities that have decided that ICLEI and the United Nations 21, Agenda 21 is not the direction they want to go in. Those states up there on the wall are states that either currently have banned or have legislation to ban Agenda 21. It's Alabama, Missouri, New Hampshire, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, Arizona, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and Kansas, sorry. There are 138 cities within the U.S. that have rejected ICLEI, including Irving and College Station, Texas. Wilson County Commissioner just recently passed a resolution against Agenda 21 for Wilson County in April 2013. And then, of course, we've got the city of Pope that rejected Agenda 21 last year in October. Many people think, or they know me, they know I'm a conservative, so they probably thought I pulled all this stuff from the conservative websites. But you'll be happy to know that I got most of this information from a website that's called Democrats Against UN Agenda 21. So I certainly, this is not partisan. There are many people out there that are just as concerned as I am that things are not going in the right direction. And this is being hidden from most Americans, and we want to make sure that we start to pay attention to it. I just have a comment here as well, too. It's a smart growth. It's not a science. It's a political dogma combined with an insidious dose of social engineering. Smart growth is a wedding wherein zoning code is married with government-sponsored housing initiatives to accomplish government's goal of social re-engineering. It urbanizes rural towns with high-density development and gerrymanders population centers through the use of housing initiatives that enable people with weak patterns of personal financial responsibility to acquire homes in higher income areas. This is the effect of shifting voting patterns of rural municipalities from the right to the left. And this was actually a quote from Rosa Chiori, and she's the author of Behind the Green Mask. So I would strongly recommend that if you want to read up more on this, that you go to that website that I just mentioned, and also pick up the book of Behind the Green Mask. So with all of that, Council, the consideration and action here, these are recommendations from me, but if Floresville City Council would issue a resolution rejecting the radical policies and severe reduction of American freedoms that compliance with the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda 21 would cause. Also, a recommendation that the city of Floresville consider due process of property rights resolution or amendment to the city charter. And a recommendation that the city of Floresville issue a resolution that it will not become a member of ICLEI. And as a personal note, I personally would entrust this body to make decisions concerning the interest of Floresville rather than a group of unelected globalists that have the world's interests in mind. And with that, I thank you.
been 20 years since it was signed. Why is this just now coming up?
It's been a long process. It's taken many years to put the wheels in motion, for what I can gather. And not everyone, and if you look under Agenda 21, it's no longer even called that. They've even changed the name because it's gotten such a bad, slanderous viewpoint. So they changed the name as Sustainable Development. You'll find it under a number of different topics because people are starting now to recognize what's going on. And now it's gaining traction. There are, they just had Rio 2012. So it was, the 20-year anniversary of this, in which they proudly put up there how far they've come in changing the worldview of what's been going on and how to achieve biodiversity, how to achieve socio-economic justice, and so forth. So it's just taken a while for it to take hold, but it certainly has not gone away. It's gotten more powerful, if anything else. Now, one last thing, if I may add, on the 1992 document that I got, I tried to tally up the costs that were involved in this. In 1992 dollars, the cost that I could determine was around $118 billion. And that was 1992 dollars. I can't imagine what it would be today.
Mr. Yuha, is there a deadline for this?
A deadline for,
Getting it rejected or passing the ordinance?
oh, absolutely not. I mean, it's just something that I would like the city to consider. I think, the sooner the better, because, things come up where on the surface, they all sound very good. And ultimately, if the city is unaware or if they have not passed something that says we will not accept these kinds of regulations, then I'm afraid we might go down the path we don't want to go.
And the reason I'm saying that is because our citizens would be good if we could inform the public. And for me, I would like to do more research on it.
Absolutely.
Do you have you said President Bush had signed it, do you have a copy of some or a box where we actually see that he did that?
Yeah, it's,
Because you spoke of all, negative, but I always like to hear both sides. And right now,
Sure.
let's hear the negative part, and that way I can make
yeah, it's all out there, on the internet. There's credible sites, and obviously some sites are not credible. But, if you go on any historical site, you'll see that all the signers, there were 178 countries that signed it, and President Herbert Walker Bush did sign it.
Yeah, and I'm like the mayor, this is the first time that I've heard of it, so I brought it up, and since '92. Surely,
It's been around a while, that's for sure. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a couple of comments, if I may, please.
Sure.
May I approach?
Yes, you may.
I often hear you folks say we do this for the people, and Mr. Malone is on Mr. Ed, I find that commendable. And I assume when you say that, we're talking about our constituents, and that is Floresville citizens. I would suggest that we canvass our citizens to see how they feel about this before we take any action. And I would strongly, I think, probably really, that maybe we should table it until we have a chance to let them know, and to let them give us some comments if they choose to do so. I don't know how we would do this in a simple way, maybe putting a mailer in your water bills, explaining what this is, and then if they so choose to comment, to which comments, and then after a brief period of time, go ahead and decide then what's appropriate for us to do. But I definitely think that the citizens of Floresville should have a say-so. Thank you very much.
May I speak, please?
Just a quick question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of this, a lot of these issues, really, speaking on the agenda, will have to go, are speaking on getting put on the charter, which they have to go for a vote anyway, correct?
You got that on, number related about the item,
Correct.
Agenda 21, in my opinion, usurps every personal right and freedom that we have been blessed to obtain and utilize and put into motion all our lives in this country. I do not want some foreign government, some foreign entity coming into my life, to my children's life, or my grandchildren's life, to tell me when I can eat, how much refrigerant I can have, how much food I can have, when I can sleep, when I can eat, when I can drive a car, if there is even a car to drive any longer. I don't want that kind of a life for myself, or my family, or for all of us. That is, this Agenda 21 is an insidious, dangerous thing for our country, for our children. And I think you better think very carefully about how you go about this. If you haven't heard it now, I'm really surprised. I think Pope has already voted against it. And I think I congratulate them for their insights. If you think that having someone dictate to you what your life will be, and you might not be a massage therapist, you might be a broom pusher somewhere, because that's where they think your talent should be. Those kinds of freedoms will be gone with Agenda 21. I couldn't sit back any longer and hear all this going on and not express the concerns that I have. Religious freedom, gone. Think about this, folks. This is extremely invasive, and it's very insidious into our lives. I am frightened to death of this thing. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Uhas, I have a question. For you too, as well, Councilman. Well, let me start with Mr. Uhas. On one of your slides, regarding Agenda 21, you stated that the U.S. is not a signatory country. And then you went on to say that this is not a treaty. Could you elaborate on what you meant by the U.S. not being a signatory country?
I have not in there. That must be the typo. I meant to say U.S. is a signatory.
Well, could you explain on that?
Yeah,
What that means?
It means that they've agreed to the tenets of that meeting that was had, the UNCD, whatever that was, and basically that they agreed to the tenets of the plan. It didn't mean that it's not a treaty. They could not, no one, in order to sign a treaty, would have to go through the Senate. So it was merely that they agreed globally to the tenets of the plan.
Thank you. So it does not exist as a law today, and it does not exist as something the U.S. government has said we have to do. However, I think you can clearly see through the presentation that Mr. Uhas made that it's very much leading to that point. And any law or organization that puts in there that they want to redistribute wealth, okay, be it the money that you have in the bank, be it the property that you own, be it where you choose to live or what job you choose to have, I find hideous. Now, my next question goes to council, and I may be stepping over you, Madam Mayor, and if I am, please let me know. Under new business, we have CNA to create an ordinance concerning Agenda 21. Rather, what the action that we need to be taking as a council regarding Agenda 21 is a resolution. Because the agenda is posted the way it is, even if that motion was made, we could not vote on it because it is not on the agenda. Is that correct?
That is,
Thank you, Council. Now, any issue as it relates to amending the city charter, that's obviously something that would have to go to a vote of the electorate. So regardless of which action we would want to take, this item would have to be tabled to another city council.
Correct.
I'll leave that to Councilman Rodriguez. This isn't sponsored, but it's still all the right action.
If I may, Mayor, may I add a comment? About this time last year, I found an article from the State Department, and I believe it was the State Department of the United States of America, with a PhD holder, and I believe his name was Lee. Our country has spent millions of dollars in sustainability throughout our nation. And it's, you know, we're talking about trillions of dollars of debt, and here we are funneling money. Some of you said you'd never heard about it. When I heard about it last year, I got angry. I got angry because I didn't know why our president would sign away our rights. Castro, over here in San Antonio, has said Texans in the future will not be allowed to drive pickup trucks. This is all the mentality of that clandestine move to one world government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
So council, are you suggesting that if we were to put it into motion, that it would have to be in the motion of an ordinance rather than?
What I'm suggesting is, normally this is a First Amendment issue, unless you want to do something besides take a position politically or you express your opinion, normally you'd be there with a resolution. Okay, ordinances we've talked about before are normally something that's penal, or normally something you're adopted to apply to the city in terms of its government. So we use the word ordinance here, kind of off target a little bit, but if you want to bring it back to the resolution, the resolution form, that'd be the way to express your opinion. Does that make sense?
Correct. The reason I'm asking is because, you know, I saw on this slide that, you know, some of the areas had approved the Agenda 21, and, well.
Approve something in opposition.
In opposition, correct. And, you know, and I didn't pull up the one from both, but I did pull up the ordinance, you know. But
Did they do it in an ordinance?
But that had to do with the Second Amendment rather than the Agenda 21, which, you know, obviously it happened a lot last year, I believe. Last year. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
May I speak,
Yes,
please?
sir, you may.
One other thing is that, hasn't been brought up, is that we intend to reduce world population. Currently, there's about 7 billion people in the world, and they would reduce it to 500 million. That's a reduction of 93%. That means 93% out of, 93% out of 93 people out of every 100 have to go away somewhere. How? They don't say that, but there's going to be all kinds of things that will slowly bring that to where the world population will drop to. And this is not going to happen in the next few years, of course. This is a long time. So reducing the world population. This is not going to bother just the United States. It's worldwide. It impacts everything. There'll be no cars. There'll be no private houses. Everybody, they're looking at having apartment complexes, maybe 10, 15, 20 miles square, be like a little city. If I live in one of these complexes and you live in another one, I won't have a car. There will be no roads. And I will have to, there will be a light rail that I'll have to get on the rail to go to your place to visit you. And they're not going to be close together. So this is going to be, and I think 75 to 80% of the land mass is going to be off limits to humans. And so everybody's going to be herded into these small areas. Thank you.
May I say a couple of items? Mr. Gonzalez brought up about informing the citizens. I don't think you can just send out a notice about Agenda 21. It's going to have to be an educational process. I would suggest perhaps Pete do the presentation, send out a notice that there will be a presentation, invite them to attend. And also, you council members have had your packets for a week or two. I urge you, if you have questions or concerns, reach out to Doug Jones or to Pete and ask those questions. A lot of time and effort went into putting those packets together. I also will confirm for you that the smart meters, which my sister who lives in Houston has, it has been documented and proven, those smart meters are causing people to be ill.
Excuse me. What package was put together? I didn't receive one, whatever package.
I don't have the packet either, I was,
I
These
thought
packages
everybody-
were given and emailed to all of y'all. It was dated April the 1st, when I think Mr. Jones brought it to him.
Mayor, I believe, if I may, please, Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Miller, I believe they were handed out the meeting that you missed. They were at one point emailed, but I can make you additional copies if you have not seen them or don't have them.
Well, that might have been a year that,
Thank you. Thank you.
just gonna ask you stuff, but if the chair gets one, that's fine.
Okay, now we're gonna go on to new business A, consideration and action to approve ordinance 2013-005, amending the 2012-2013 budget. Laura?
Oh, well, I'm gonna hear what she has to say, I think this is, go ahead.
We have here on here tonight an ordinance just amending the revenues that was requested to be done. So we have an ordinance increasing, excuse me, the amounts that when we pass the new rate fees in April, that will increase water rates just for the last 3 months of the year. This is really mostly based on base, and I used, if you take the report from Mr. Gonzalez, they're off, it's slightly different because he had a little lower number of residential customers and commercial due to the information he was using. So I used the April billing with the residential customers. And so it's only going to, it's increasing 4 line items, water, residential, commercial, water, residential, commercial sales. The one line item will be increased 20,565. Water commercial will be 24,745. And then sewer for residential and will be 22,797. Sewer commercial 19,657. This is your second budget amendment.
I think we kind of missed the mark on where I was going with the budget amendment. If we're going to increase revenue, where is that increase in revenue going to be expended? And that was the question. If we're going to increase revenue by roughly $85,000 into the water and sewer fund, where is that $85,000 going to be expended? And in the budget amendments that have been presented in the past, we make an adjustment here, then we show that offsetting adjustment over here. And that was my point. If we're going to increase the revenue, we need to amend the budget to reflect the expenditure.
Well, the issue is that the increase wasn't gonna be expensive. There was no monies allocated for expenditure. That's
Well,
why.
then it reduced the deficit that the water fund had. If we increase the revenue, if we were projecting $100 and now we're projecting $180, the bottom line changes somewhere.
Well, that's not, there's no expenses. I mean, that's the issue, is that we haven't, you as a council haven't said, Larry Heimer, once he presents his packet to say, this is what the water and sewer is gonna cost, this is what this is gonna cost. Now the council says, we wanna allocate this money this year, that's where we do a budget amendment, but we haven't said that. That's why our comptroller said, we don't have to do a budget amendment because we're not gonna expend it.
And that was why I asked in that email that was sent out that time-wise, there are several items that need to be addressed. I mentioned that in several of the meetings, going over monthly budgets, that we have quite a few things we need to address in water sewer. And,
Agreed.
I I did not have a time, and I asked for this item to be as a whole, not just the water revenue and sewer revenue side, that we would be able to do on June 23rd, a larger amendment that would include additional items that we're still working on. So,
This is the
unfortunately, I don't
point that
have
we
the
have
time.
as a governing entity, and I made this issue at the last council meeting. Okay, although the rates being charged to the customers were wrong, as was noted in the audit, based on the current ordinance, and you discovered this, the rates that many customers were being charged, we were undercharging customers. And then we received a water rate study that said, we really should be charging this. And we said, okay, well, let's combine these into a new rate, okay? And we did or a rate adjustment was done, and I was absent when that was done. But if we as a government are going to increase what we are charging customers for a service, or what we are charging the residents of the community in taxes, we must have a plan for how we're going to account for that money. If we don't have that plan, we don't have the right to raise the rate. And hence my point for a budget amendment. If we are going to raise the water rates, or we're going to raise the sewer rates, we must be able to inform the citizenry what we're going to do with that money. Not just put it aside and decide at some later date what we're going to use it for.
The rate study that Mr. Raoul presented in February did discuss the fact that you are not meeting your needs. We've discussed that in several meetings. In addition, he said money needs to be started to be set aside for capital improvement, such as when we get ready to issue debt for the sewer plant.
Great. Then let's present a budget amendment that says we're going to increase the revenue by this much money, and we're going to increase what we're setting aside for capital improvement by an equal amount.
And we asked that in June, she would be prepared to do that. She is not prepared to do that at this point in time.
So we're putting this off again. Yeah, Andy,
We're not putting it off, sir. We haven't even started collecting the money.
We asked, and USDA rate study, the rate study was paid, through USDA money, said that we need to do, and that is what the first step that we needed to be done.
And that money's not starting to be collected until June, right?
July.
Okay, but we have, as a council, passed an ordinance to raise the water rates and the sewer rates. But we, as a council, don't know where that money's going to go. There's something wrong with that.
It would actually go as it would increase your, it's not called fund balance on the enterprise side. It would increase your net assets. So it would be there for future expenditures.
Again.
If it didn't get budgeted and spent this year, but we're not going to spend it without coming to you. And it's just like increased revenues that might actually come in over in the general fund or over in miscellaneous revenue.
But that's what we did in the last budget amendment, Ms. Fagan. We went back and we said the hotel motel tax is significantly more than what we thought it was going to be. So we adjusted that, and we also adjusted where that money was going to go. When the same thing happened.
We actually did, we changed.
Okay, would you let me speak? And then when I'm finished speaking, you can answer my questions.
Mayor? Is that appropriate, Mayor?
I don't think that
Okay, well, I am trying to speak, and every time I try to speak, I continually get interrupted and told, no, that's not the case. Or I get continually, Ms. Fagan turns around and looks at Mr. Jocelyn and says, no, that's not the case. So I'm competing and trying to speak on this thing and ask my question or make my point. And I find that unprofessional, and it is continually happening. Now, if I'm going to make a point or ask a question, I would like the opportunity to make that point or ask that question. If it is the opinion of this council that I can be interrupted or spoke over, then so be it. Thank you. My point to this is, Mr. Jocelyn, when we got our presentation from Mr. Rodriguez, which was several months ago, I think, I made the comment to you that as we brought this rate to the council, that it needed to be accompanied by a budget amendment, to which you said to me, yes, sir. When the item was placed on the agenda to have the council approve the rate increase, I telephoned you because I was going to be out of town and asked that it be accompanied by a budget amendment, to which you responded to me, yes, sir. Then at the last council meeting, when I asked for this item to be placed on the agenda as a budget amendment, I was informed that not enough time had been allowed for it, and asked for an additional week, or for the next meeting. And here we are again. And this item was on the agenda, and we don't have the answers to the question. I'm extremely disappointed in this, and feel that it is our responsibility as elected officials to be able to tell the citizens what we're doing with money. Not that it's going to be used at some later time, if we don't budget it at another time. That's a problem. That's a problem with government, you know, and that's why we go through budget cycles and spend all this time to put together income versus expenses versus the project that we're going to spend. And as a result, I'm going to move to table consideration and action on this amendment until the next city council meeting, at which time we must be able to account for this money that we're asking the residents of this community to pay.
Mayor, may I speak?
Yes.
Okay. Respectfully to the council and respectfully to the citizens that are in the audience, we have, as professionals, and you complimented her earlier, sir.
I did.
About her professionalism. I looked to her and I asked her, this is what the council wants. Can we make it happen? You were informed, sir, weeks ago, what her recommendation as a comptroller and as a professional that she was hired for advised. Can we wait till this June 23rd meeting so that we could bring forward a budget amendment that would make sense? No, it has to be there. You put it on the council agenda as you wish. We're not doing anything to be disrespectful, like what just happened a little while ago here. We are trying to tell you, this is what it takes, and this is how it needs to be done. Please, is what we say. In an email, which correspondence is always available, to say, this is what it's gonna take. No, to show where the revenue is coming, is what we're told, that's what she's gone for. We're not trying to disrespect any council member or any citizen. We're relying on her professionalism and her experience to say, this is what it's gonna take. That way we can come forth and we can tell you. We have not collected 1 penny of extra revenue from the rate increase, and we will not till July. And at which time she is prepared to bring that forward. We have Larry Heimer in the audience that is going to bring some more proposals. He's brought proposals for what this council has asked for, water models, sewer models. All of that money, once we get that, we can put it into a budget amendment and say, here you go, council, this is how we can pay for it.
And the general fund, actually, the amendment you did actually had additional revenues that we did not spend, and it is the same exact theory. There's money that isn't allocated to be spent, so it will be, if we didn't bring another amendment to you and spend that difference, it would roll into the next year, either increasing your fund balance or increasing your net assets number.
And I think maybe my point is, my argument is not with city staff. My argument is with the council that approved this rate increase. There are those things that we cannot project. Increases in hotel motel tax. Increases in hotel tax. These are set very they're collected by another entity and they're forwarded to the city. We can make some projections on them. And as a result, we've seen increases in sales tax, we've seen increases in hotel motel tax. But here, in this case, this is what we're going to charge the residents of this community. It's like setting a tax rate. And if we don't know how we're going to use that money, how can we approve that? And we as a council did.
Well, this item was approved because it needed to be. It needed to be changed, it needed to be adjusted. So whether the changes got done at the time that we approved it till if it was today's meeting, it still needed to be done. It still needed to be taken care of. So it would have prolonged it that much longer. So yes, we did approve it.
And the fact that not everyone was here is not our fault, we did our job. As Mr. Miller indicated, that it was the fault of the council voting for it.
Okay, I have a motion on the table this. Does somebody else want to second that? Or
I'll
do you want
second.
to vote on it?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion to table item A, consideration action for ordinance 2013-005, amending 2012-2013 budget. By Councilman Miller, second by Councilman Rodriguez. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I made the motion, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Miller, Councilman Miller. Motion carries 5-0.
I'd like to make the motion to table item 3B, CNA to appoint members to the board for the city of Floresville, Cornwall Charter.
May I please read it first? Sometimes y'all try to take over my job, I'm not going to allow that anymore. Consideration, item 3B, consideration and action to appoint members to the board for the city of Floresville Home Rule Charter. Now, Councilman.
I'll make the motion to table item 3B.
I have a motion to table item 3B. May I have a second? Second by Councilwoman Castillo. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we're going to go on to item 3C, consideration and action to create an ordinance concerning Agenda 21. Councilman Rodriguez.
I would like to make the motion to table item number 3C till we can bring it back properly as a resolution.
Okay, I have a motion to table item 3C by Councilman Rodriguez, second by Councilman Castillo. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That will be returning once you change it to resolution. Ms. Pollock, you will take note of that. Okay. Item 3D, consideration and action to accept tower lease agreement. Mr. Kirk. And Mr. Miller.
Administratively, I just want to make a point that I didn't bring this agenda item up. I had suggested at the last council meeting that Mr. Mullen get with council and the city managers to be prepared to present to council, but I did not sponsor this item on the agenda.
Okay, I'm going to remind everyone, on councilman and councilwoman, you received the agenda in a draft form on a Friday. If you have any corrections, you must submit them to the city secretary before posting at 5 o'clock on Mondays. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. I did not have an opportunity to get this distributed to you, but
Yes, ma'am.
these are just some additional information that goes along with the lease agreement that was submitted, I guess, at the last council meeting. just to represent some of the potential savings to the city. I'm not sure if, Sherry, did the council members get a copy of the commented?
We had not sent it out, Mr. Mullins, because we didn't have any of the changes that you might have wished on it. And then, just for the council to know, one thing that he's gonna speak on tonight, we did find out that currently we are under a contract with Internet America, who currently provides us internet service at no cost. Before we could approve the, tower lease agreement the way it's written with Mr. Mullins, because he is offering that as well, we do have to notify and find out, how to get out of the lease agreement with Internet America. I do think that Mr. Mullins had a couple of things that he wanted to speak on. At this point, though, because we are in another contract, I don't believe that we could approve this, and I would consider tabling it, but I believe Mr. Mullins has some information to give you as well.
No, actually, that would be totally new to me because I know that you're under contract with them for the north tower and the south tower, but the B Street tower and the old water tower were not covered underneath the constraints of the contract.
And that portion, the portion of the lease on the tower that is completely separate. It's the internet, you providing the internet.
Oh, yes.
That makes the contract where it's got that in the current contract that we're under, and it's got that in yours, and until we deal with the one we're under, the contract includes it, which means we wouldn't be able to approve your tower leases with that provision in the contract.
However, in addition to that, you have a $400+ service fee with Verizon, which provides your dedicated internet, which I'm proposing that this would replace, not your Internet America.
I believe that once we, I think we didn't have a chance, obviously, to sit down before this meeting, and I think we could sit down and come up with a better lease, which is why that lease agreement was not sent out to the council, because it wasn't complete.
Okay, and did you receive the commented version from the Rosenberg Law Firm that has my comments in it?
No, sir,